A Yankee Doodle disaster, 15 U.S. states to avoid in 2025. Hello, America. Welcome to our countdown of the top 15 U.S. states you might want to avoid visiting in 2025. Now, I realize this might seem a tad dramatic, but hear me out. Whether it's due to natural disasters, high crime rates, or other factors, these states have made our list for a reason. And look, no one is saying these states are entirely bad. That's the thing about states. They're like families, full of problematic aunts and uncles you try to avoid at Thanksgiving. But instead of passive-aggressively ignoring them from across the dinner table, we're going to shine a spotlight on these 15 states and discuss why you might want to consider a staycation instead. Buckle up, folks. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Let's dive in. First up, we have the Golden State, or as we like to call it now, the please don't set ourselves on fire state. California, you see, has always been a bit extra. It's the land of Hollywood, Silicon Valley, and, unfortunately, increasingly frequent and devastating wildfires. These wildfires, fueled by climate change and a chronic lack of common sense, are turning what was once paradise into a scene from a post-apocalyptic film. And let's not forget the small matter of the cost of living, which is higher than Snoop Dogg at a Cypress Hill concert. So, unless you have a fireproof wallet and a yearning for the scent of eucalyptus and impending doom, California might be one to skip in 2025. Next up, we head southeast to the Sunshine State, where the sun shines brightly on your rapidly flooding home. Florida, the land of theme parks, retirees, and increasingly frequent hurricanes, is starting to look less like a vacation destination and more like a disaster zone waiting to happen. And with rising sea levels, it's not just hurricanes that residents have to worry about. Soon, it'll be manatees in your living room and beachfront property in your neighbor's basement. So, unless you fancy a dip in a pool of your own anxieties, maybe skip the Florida trip this year. Yeehaw! Welcome to Texas, where everything is bigger, including the crime rates and the weather disasters. From scorching heat waves to flash floods, Texas is a land of extremes. And if the weather doesn't get you, the crime rates might. It's enough to make you want to trade in your 10-gallon hat for a full suit of armor. So, unless you're a thrill seeker with a death wish and a really good insurance policy, maybe reconsider that trip to the Lone Star State. New York City. The city that never sleeps, mostly because it's too busy figuring out how to afford rent. New York is iconic, but the cost of living is astronomical. Living in New York is like dating a beautiful, charismatic person who also happens to be a black hole for money. You'll fall in love with the energy, the culture, the sheer audacity of it all, but your bank account will be crying into its overpriced latte every morning. And let's not forget the crowds. Imagine being packed into a subway car with 1,000 of your closest, sweatiest friends, all vying for a sliver of personal space. So, unless you have a trust fund and a penchant for claustrophobia, you might want to postpone that trip to the Big Apple. Next up, we head down to Louisiana, the birthplace of jazz, gumbo, and an alarming number of natural disasters. Louisiana is a state locked in a passionate, albeit ill-advised, tango with Mother Nature. Hurricanes, check. Flooding, check, check, check. And let's not forget the coastal erosion that's slowly but surely nibbling away at the state's coastline. So, unless you fancy your chances against a Category 5 hurricane or enjoy the feeling of your socks squelching with every step, maybe skip Louisiana in 2025. Stay safe and dry, folks. Nevada, the land of casinos, showgirls, and the increasingly desperate feeling that you might actually be turning into a human jerky snack. Seriously, the heat in Nevada is no joke. And speaking of dehydration, let's not forget about the ongoing drought that's turning the once mighty Colorado River into a trickle. So, unless you're a cactus with a gambling problem, or have a fetish for slot machines that dispense bottled water instead of cash, maybe give Nevada a miss in 2025. Stay cool and hydrated. And Chapter 7, Illinois, where the wind blows and the crime soars. Illinois. The land of Lincoln, deep dish pizza, and a murder rate that would make Al Capone blush. Chicago, the jewel of Illinois, is a city of contrasts. You've got stunning architecture, world-class museums, and a theater scene that rivals New York's. But you've also got a crime rate that's enough to make you want to wear a Kevlar vest to a Cubs game. So, unless you're a fan of true crime podcasts and have a black belt in Krav Maga, maybe reconsider that trip to the Prairie State. Chapter 8, Michigan, from Motor City to Misery City. Michigan. The Great Lakes state, home to the Motor City and, unfortunately, some not-so-great economic prospects. Once a powerhouse of American industry, Michigan has struggled to adapt to the changing times, leaving many cities grappling with unemployment, poverty, and crime. And let's not forget about the crumbling infrastructure in many parts of the state. So unless you're a fan of urban exploration or have a particular set of skills that involve fixing potholes with your bare hands, maybe skip Michigan in 2025. Chapter 9. Alabama, sweet home, maybe not so much, the heart of Dixie, home to beautiful beaches, delicious barbecue, and unfortunately, more than its fair share of natural disasters and economic woes. Alabama is no stranger to Mother Nature's temper tantrums. From tornadoes to hurricanes, Alabama has it all. And if the natural disasters don't get you, the economic challenges might. So unless you're a storm chaser with a heart of gold and a strong stomach for economic disparity, maybe reconsider that trip to the Yellowhammer State. Chapter 10. Mississippi, Mississippi, Mississippi. The birthplace of the blues, home to some of the most soulful food in America, and, unfortunately, a state grappling with some deeply rooted challenges. Poverty, racism, and lack of access to education and healthcare are just some of the issues plaguing this state. And let's not forget about the natural disasters. Hurricanes, floods, and tornadoes all have a nasty habit of paying a visit to Mississippi. So, unless you're a historian with a passion for social justice and a high tolerance for risk, maybe skip Mississippi in 2025. Chapter 11. Oh, New Jersey, the Garden State, home to Bruce Springsteen, boardwalks, and a cost of living that would make even Tony Soprano consider a career change. New Jersey is a state of contradictions. It's got beautiful beaches, charming small towns, and a vibrant arts and culture scene, but it's also got some of the highest property taxes in the country, and traffic that would make a saint swear. So, unless you're a die-hard Springsteen fan with a bottomless bank account and a masochistic streak that enjoys traffic jams, maybe reconsider that trip to the Garden State. Chapter 12. Well, hey there, Georgia. The Peach State, home to Southern hospitality, delicious comfort food, and, unfortunately, a growing list of concerns. Georgia is a state that's experiencing some growing pains. While it boasts a booming economy and a vibrant cultural scene, it's also facing challenges with income inequality, racial tensions, and a rise in violent crime. And let's not forget about the natural disasters. So, unless you're a history buff with a penchant for Southern charm and a high tolerance for risk, maybe reconsider that trip to the Empire State of the South. Oklahoma, 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 the Sooner State, home to wide open spaces, friendly folks, and, unfortunately, more than its fair share of tornadoes. Oklahoma is located smack dab in the middle of Tornado Alley. It's like living on a giant dartboard, just waiting for Mother Nature to take aim. And if the tornadoes don't get you, the economic challenges might. So unless you're a meteorologist with a passion for storm chasing or an oil baron with a bunker, maybe reconsider that trip to the Sooner State. Well, howdy there, Arkansas, the natural state, home to stunning mountains, beautiful lakes, and, unfortunately, some deeply entrenched problems. Arkansas is a state of contrasts. It's got breathtaking natural beauty, but it also has some of the highest poverty rates in the country. And let's not forget about the natural disasters. So, unless you're a social worker with a heart of gold, a survival expert with a knack for navigating natural disasters, or a trust fund kid who just really likes mountains, maybe reconsider that trip to the natural state. Well, hello there, Missouri, the Show Me State, home to the Gateway Arch, delicious barbecue, and, unfortunately, a laundry list of challenges. Missouri is a state that's caught in the middle. From the urban struggles of St. Louis to the rural poverty that plagues many parts of the state, Missouri is a state of stark contrasts. And let's not forget about the natural disasters. Floods, tornadoes, and ice storms all have a nasty habit of wreaking havoc on the Show Me State. So, unless you're a sociologist with a penchant for Midwestern charm and a high tolerance for risk, maybe reconsider that trip to Missouri. And there you have it, folks. Our whirlwind tour of 15 U.S. states you might want to avoid in 2025. Look, I know this might have seemed a bit bleak, but sometimes a little dose of reality is necessary, especially when it comes to something as important as travel safety and responsible tourism. Remember, knowledge is power, and knowing which states might be facing challenges in the coming year can help you make informed decisions about where to go and what precautions to take. This isn't about fear-mongering, it's about being informed and making responsible choices. So, do your research, stay safe, and remember, there's a whole wide world out there to explore, just maybe not these 15 states. At least not in 2025.